You ever think like, oh, I could have been this completely different person?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I'm like, yeah, think about me having like a teenager right now or something. That would be insane. That's a scary thought.
Medium Build, aka Nick Carpenter, says he's got a crush on his drug dealer, but not in the way you think. The self-proclaimed former soft boy sings about masculinity, relationships, and reflections on what it was like to leave his faith behind.
My dad was raised by a single mother, and his only way out of like sort of this rural poverty was to become a preacher. My mom was raised by missionaries, and she was one of 6 kids. They went and did missionary stuff, and then when they raised my brother and I, they kind of were out of it, but it was their core belief system, right? It's like God, Jesus, that all came before financial health, physical health, education, which I think was very comforting for me as a kid, but also very disorienting when you go and you like trade notes with your friends at school, and you're like, hey, like, your mom obsessed with Jesus? And they're like, what? And you're like, never mind, just checking. Like, your parents ever tell you about like the afterlife?
What were the expectations on you as a kid?
Just believe. Give your whole life.
I am sacred, I am safe, I am free in my room. I get to dream of who I really want to be in my room.
I was very subservient. I was at church like 4 or 5 days a week, like volunteering, playing in the worship band, helping the younger kids. It was a whole ecosystem that I needed to function. So when a doubt pings up, like, maybe this is kind of exclusive and magical thinking, you don't want to explore that, right? You don't want to look at the thing that would exclude you from the reward place. That was kind of a bit of the unraveling, and then it wasn't until like 18 where I kind of left the fold and stopped going to church, and then it slowly started fragmenting. It was hard. Like, my mom like wept in front of me. Like, I remember my older brother left the church when I was maybe 14. We literally would have like, me and my mom would like kneel on the floor of the living room and like pray for Jack to come back. That's a really intense belief system that's pumped into you since you're a child. And so they were obviously scared and sad. And for a while I was resentful of their thoughts, but now I just kind of look at it as like, they just love me, right? So I can understand the grief, and I'm just dismantling my programming.
Yeah.
So I can still love them, I can feel that they love me, and I don't have to live in that shame or pain or resentment anymore.
You went through a period where you were able to sort of funnel your voice into music properly. Was that during that time where you felt more creatively intelligent?
Yeah, that's when the song started. It was like there was a guy that I wanted to be and a guy that was like, that I was, and they weren't connected. And I'd say that year is when I started giving the voice to him, right? It's like, something in here, but I was like scared to give it the microphone. And then that was the year where I really started, turning the faucet on.
Do you ever think about the other guy? Do you ever think like, oh, I could have been this completely different person?
Totally. I dated this woman my senior year of high school. She went and became like a missionary, married like the first guy she met at the missionary place, and they have like 4 kids. And
could have been you.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I'm like, whoa, I could have like really never looked behind the door, just been like, this is it. And like, high five, like, yeah, think about me having like a teenager right now or something, that would be insane. That's a scary thought.
Nothing is forever, nothing is for sure. And everybody loves you, loves to see you go. Oh, loves to see you go.
Do you ever hear the influence of the church still in your music?
Totally. Yeah, you can't get rid of it. I sponged that sort of ethereal, like mournful, spiritual, magical, fog machine-y vibe. Yeah, I think there's some drama in my music. The way that all my songs kind of start gentle and build to this big, like, I'm screaming my guts out. I think that's very like church music. Like we start slow and mournful and then we're all, you know, it's like, it's the Coldplay of it, it's the arena thing of it.
Oh, my little light. Oh, my little light.
The like 1,000 people singing together and we're gonna heal the world and fix everything. And yeah, I think there's still a bit of that.
I want to talk about your song White Male Privilege.
And I have sex just to have kids. And I'll get a job, work real hard, hang rope lights in the backyard, buy a minivan, drive across the state.
It talks a lot about the sort of push and pull between modern and traditional masculinity. Do you think about that tension a lot?
Totally. I was a girly kid, you know, I was not a guy's guy. I've never felt very masculine. I think there's a trope, especially in the sort of the millennial into the Gen Z boys, like there's the soft boy, the soy boy, the like fuck boy, you know, like the like, oh, like he's sensitive, but he doesn't realize how manipulative he is. He doesn't realize his power, right? These guys that are like kind of soft and use their softness to actually be pretty destructive. And I think that as like a sensitive guy and even a guy who was unsure of his sexual identity or gender identity or whatever, like in my 20s got away with a lot of bad behavior in this sort of like, I'm just a soft guy, you know, I'm just figuring it out. But at least I'm not him, right? At least I'm not like, you know, drunk in the pickup truck, like using derogatory stuff. You know, I didn't feel like I was this man. In the othering of myself, I was unable to see the wake of destructive stuff behind me. And that song is very much me looking at that unavailable emotional guy. That's who I became, which in itself is very masculine, right? That's like what my dad modeled, was chase money, chase success. Who cares if you're not at home, right? It's like, he's providing. I got all of that and was like, but I'm sensitive. Like, but it's like, well, you're still clocked out. You're still not here. You're still like drunk with the boys. Even if your boys are all soft and you guys are talking about like, you know, Charlie XCX records, like you're not at home being present, right? So I had to check myself.
Yeah, so the song's a bit of a reckoning for you in that way.
Totally.
I guess I'd be alone.
Can we talk about the song Drug Dealer
Yeah.
and where that came from?
Thinking I'm in love with that songwriter. People were obsessed with that person we don't really know, right? Like the podcaster, the bartender, the barista, the songwriter, the actor. Like it's like, I like wonder what Austin Butler smells like, right? It's like I just need to know. When you are the person projecting that, it's very fun. Crushes are fun. But when you are the object of it, it's really lonely. I think the past 2 years of success or whatever, I've started becoming the object of people's fascination. Something that like basically all women deal with all the time. It's like people just unwanted advances and like projections. So the first verse is about me having a crush on my drug dealer and my bartender, and then the second verse is, you know, I think I'm in love with this songwriter. He says everything I feel, right? So there's a little bit of like turning the camera on the crowd and being like, that's y'all, like chill, you know?
What's it been like working with Julian Baker?
'Cause the yoke was so heavy. Yeah, the yoke was so.
She's amazing. Yeah, one of my oldest, sweetest friends. Like, I've learned so much from Julian. She got it all so much earlier and faster than I have, and there was times when I was really jealous of her. I remember texting her after my first long tour and being like, I can't believe I was jealous of this. This is so difficult and so weird, and I'm so sorry for not checking on you more.
So do you find touring emotionally taxing?
Yeah, definitely, more so than ever. I'd say the first couple years you sort of get by on the novelty of it, but I think it's been in the last year where it kind of, the dopamine or whatever, the joy you're getting starts to kind of taper off and get normal, and then you realize how difficult it is and how much stuff you're sacrificing. And then what I was doing to try to combat that was go harder, do more, party harder, and so I can keep staying high, which led to a lot of burnout this year. Specifically, when we were in Europe in November, I had a full-blown panic attack on stage one night. Just sort of the realization that you kind of feel like a zoo animal. But I've made some changes. I quit drinking since my last trip here and got on meds and started to put boundaries around the work. I think there's still that little Christian kid that wants to save everybody. There's the, say yes to everyone, people please kid. I'm trying to learn how to do it without burning out.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for having this chat with me.
This is such a good conversation. Thank you.
Everything I am today is 'cause of you, it's 'cause of you.